Okay, it says we're live. We'll just wait to confirm it. But yes, we are live.
Nice.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It is it's the end of the month. It's the last Friday of the month, which feels weird because it still feels like there's a whole week ahead of us. But it's because the month ends on a Thursday.
You guys have an extra hour, so.
How does it feel to be an hour into the future? What happened? Tell us.
It still sucks. this week was a rough week. I just get to skip an hour of it.
Oh man. Well, on that note, life still sucks. Let's roll the intro. There's only one place for the breaking news in the world of instructional design. The ID Update with Tom and Joe. All the news you never knew you never needed. Only on IDT.
That's glorious. That's a way to open an episode.
There we go. Smashing. So, exciting times then. Or not, as the case may be. I don't think we've ever got... Before we start, literally a couple of minutes, we get onto the platform before we go live to you guys. And I don't think the two of us have ever got on a call and just been like, I'm ready for the week to be over. So immediately.
Yeah. It's been a daffy week. But sure that's has. Okay.
Exactly. We're here now. It's the end of the week, the end of the month. Hello to everyone who is here already. Thank you for joining us. Mm-hmm. We are streaming from a different platform today. Hey, Kara. Thanks for being here from the start. We're streaming on a different platform. So if there's any differences in quality or things you don't usually see, please do let us know. Because I'd be keen to get feedback on whether or not this is better, worse, or no different at all.
I know for me, this is better. It's actually kind of cool. Because normally we're used to recording through Discord, and then we just kind of I think you do just an OBS thing. So I only actually get to see half of what's going on.
This is the thing. Usually everything is totally manual, which is why some weeks if I set OBS to do a local recording, and so I set it to say 60 frames a second. And if you try and export 60 frames a second over an internet connection live stream to YouTube, it has a fit. Like that week where the stream just kept crashing. That's what that was.
I looked at it because that was January, because we January part 3. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Because I was actually looking for that, because that's going to be a part of what we talk about, is what we talked about in January.
Absolutely. Yes. Can't
see the brew. Well, we haven't talked about the brews.
My shot is a bit tight. That's actually not the platform. That's me being super lazy. Like 2 weeks ago, I changed the lens on my camera, and I cannot be asked to change it back because I'm actually in the process.
I'm just coming close now. There we go.
This is it. There we go. Look, I'm in the process of changing my cameras, so the idea of then resetting this back to another one just to then swap the camera, nah, not doing it. But shiny.
Ooh. Mine's a Logitech piece of crap.
This is it. We're switching over to all Blackmagic cameras, so this is going to be exciting.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous. All I have is the Logitech 930. I don't like it, but it's all I can afford.
Hey, and there is always the best camera for what you're doing is the camera you have. Yes. Everything else, and I fully say this, that is a ridiculous camera to purchase and do a couple of YouTube videos on and Zoom. I'm getting it for other projects, obviously, but it's, you don't need a great camera. Great content stands alone. It doesn't need a great camera to capture it. But
and that's what we hope to provide here.
That's certainly the goal. I think it's a lofty goal, but yeah. So yeah. Rather than my usual, I think it's usually like a 14mm lens that I shoot from this camera. This is a 50, so it is real close.
Gotcha.
But so yeah. Anyway, we'll work around that. Anyway, we'll work around that. You can just see me in more detail. Sorry. Let's talk beverages. What are you having tonight?
With how these have been going, I bring 2 nowadays. So I'm trying to decide. I've got a bitter, which Just feels great for again the week. But I'm gonna actually start with my friends over at WeldWorks. I love these guys. This is one of my favorite breweries. This is in a city that has no business having as good beer as it does. It's called Chasing Waterfalls. The brewery's called WeldWorks. And I'm bringing out the Pint Day glasses because next week is Colorado Pint Day. So every year we get this like pint glass that has these really cool art on it. I don't know why it's always like fish or moose or like not enough to do with Colorado. Not what you would think, but that's what I've got.
That's
IPA
really cool.
And a fish.
I like it.
So
and
it's one of those like every year they make a new glass for it. So it's always like trying to get your hands on the glasses. We try to get our hands on 2, one to collect, one to drink out of.
That's really nice. I like that.
Yeah. We do it for it's for a ton of charities and whatnot as well. There's like 175 breweries participating.
Wow.
So anyway, what do you
Very
got?
cool. Well, I have not been shopping since last time, so I still have no beer. So instead, we have, and I shall find the camera. There we go. We have this lovely, really, really lovely Cotswold single malt. I want to say it is 18 years. 21. There we go.
So it's legal. It is legal to drink itself.
This can drink itself. So it is lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. And it's from a local distillery as well. The Cotswolds are not far from where I live.
Nice.
So it's nice to have something that tastes local. Or rather supports a local business. I'm not sure what the Cotswolds would taste like, but I'd like to imagine it would be this.
I'm sure somebody will find out someday.
Exactly. Anyway, here's to the end of the month.
Before this gets weird, cheers.
And
Cheers to you all.
yeah, if anyone is in joining us with a drink, alcoholic or not, in the chat, do let us know.
Oh man, that's so good. I've never actually tried that beer before, so necessary. Anyway, topics for the day.
Yes,
right?
So I think we got some interesting topics this week.
Yeah.
Plenty of space for me to get myself in trouble.
When do we not get ourselves in trouble lately?
Absolutely.
Anyway, all right. So I'll kick off with the 2 that I've kind of brought to the table. One, anyway, we'll get to that. January, we talked about the global sentiment survey for L&D, and they did results through February. Those results came out. So we're going to talk about what the top trends for 2022 are expected to be, what people are. I'm not as mad at it as I expected. But I'm still I don't know. It's all about execution. But number two is the real bad. Number 2 is the one I'm not excited about at all for weird reasons. So I hit a milestone this week, everybody. I made my first TikTok video. That's not the topic. That's not. It just felt really dirty. It felt really bad. And I've got to amp it up because there's Captivate news. It's just a week of dirty. Everything feels wrong this week. I have Captivate news.
That's right. We've got a soundboard.
Sound effects. I love this platform. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. Tom has sound effects. That's what he's bringing to the table.
Literally it. No, I am bringing to the table the fact that, like, for the last 2.5 weeks, I have just gradually become more and more depressed as I read across social media, websites, and blogs about the state of the world of joining L&D.
Okay.
What it's like to join. I think the whole online academies and things situation is it never ended, but it's kind of been addressed a lot already. But the money grabbingness of it is getting worse rather than better. Let's put it that way. Plus, I've just done another whole round of recruitment looking for freelancers, and therefore dealt with exactly the same problem as last time with the cookie cutter world of I see exactly which online course you attended to create your CV and your cover letter and your portfolio.
Oh, I'm gonna have a story for that, but I'll save it for when we talk about that. It's not good.
But what this isn't going to be,
Sarah's gonna love it though.
Yeah. But what this isn't going to be is just me moaning about it. Because what I actually thought was, let's have a conversation about what you can actually do other than going down that route if you've decided you want a career in L&D. I think that's a more, it's something we can add as opposed to just having a moan. We will have a moan, obviously, but that won't be the full extent of the conversation.
Practicality. We're all about practicality. Walk away with something useful.
Yeah, tell you what, let's shall we do maybe global sentiments and then tech stuff and then come round to getting into L&D last?
Yeah. No, I'm good for that. Lord knows the last thing that we should end on is Captivate news.
Yeah, we can't end on the tech news. That's not gonna go well.
That's not gonna be fun.
Cool
for me.
So,
all right. So anyway, global L&D Global Sentiment Survey, put out by, I don't remember, Donald Taylor. That's who it was. Top 10, or basically it was a list of trends, and the idea, I think there were like 15 different ones, and it was, what do you think is going to be the top trends of 2022? We have those results. So to go down the list, I don't know how cool your app is if we can actually see the list, but
let's have a look.
Let's see. The only way I could do is I have to give it away though, so I don't really want to do that.
I can share a screen, but obviously then it'll be given away as to what the results are.
So anyway, let's not. How about I'll just read off what they were. So there were a bunch of different trends. We'll go through each of them so you can get a nice refresher on what they were. Chances are you do know what they are already. But top 3 didn't piss me off. There were a couple that, we were kind of joking around in January that a lot of these were stuff that has basically been trying to become relevant for years. The fact that they're still on this list as emerging trends was honestly a little offensive and maybe more concerning. Things like micro learning and mobile, which I'm so glad how low mobile is. But anyway, here are the top 3. Top 3 trends that people are expect to be kind of trends, the powerhouses in 2022, according to the Global Sentiment Survey, which I think is a survey of about 2,500, 4,000. Many people. Number 1, reskilling and upskilling at 12.5% of votes. That's your number 1. That's your top spot. Collaborative and social learning hit number 2, 9.6%. Personalization and adaptive delivery, 8.1. I'm actually really happy about that one. I'm glad that one's up there. I'll quickly go through the rest of them. Coaching and mentoring is number 4. Learning analytics, cute. I have questions. That's number 5. Skills-based talent management, number 6. Microlearning, number 7. Oh, now we can see it. Learning experience platforms, number 8. Consulting more deeply with the business, number 9. We had a whole conversation because that kind of became my role, my business. Showing value, number 10. That makes me sad. Performance support, artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, mobile delivery. I'm so glad those 2 are down in the bottom of this list. Curation, which is hilarious. And then other. I like other. But those are your top 3. So initial reactions to you.
Yeah. So tell you what I'll do as well. I'll drop the let's drop a link in there so that everyone can have a look if they want to. But yeah, so I'm pleased to see some of my more pessimistic predictions didn't come true. Like I said, I did kind of see mobile learning being stupidly high still, that kind of thing. I think what's possibly more interesting than the actual results, and maybe more telling about where we're going, I don't know, but I suspect, is actually the climbers versus those losing percentage. Right. Because although, for instance, reskilling and upskilling, everyone's talking about it at the moment. It's post-pandemic or hybrid workforce or whatever it relates to. And yes, it's 12.5%. Yes, it's in first place, but it's in decline from last year's survey. Now, that's interesting because I had expected to see it kind of skyrocket.
Yeah, you would expect it makes sense logically.
This is it. I'm pleased to see it hasn't, because actually I don't think it's a particularly new element to what L&D do, and I don't think it's something that everywhere really needs to have as a focus. I feel like everyone feels like they should. Like the number of companies I've spoken to recently that are like, we're going to re-onboard everyone in the business. And the question is, it's not inherently a bad thing to do, but the question of why needs to be asked and answered, because that is a big undertaking. And the vast majority of them didn't know why. They got the gist from the industry. It was something they should be doing, and therefore they were going to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like my struggle with that, and I have to go to showing value being number 10 and on the decline. That's a big that I wish that were higher. The thing I've got to look at, which naturally this survey isn't going to cover, is the execution. And I looked at reskilling and upskilling. And for anybody watching, just stop me when you've heard this. All right, stop me if you've heard this one. As a benefit to all of our employees this year, we are giving you X amount of hours so that way you can engage in your own learning experience. And to help with that, we have formed a partnership with LinkedIn Learning. Now you can use your company email to log into this wonderful tool. Off you go. And then that's it. The end. And there's no guidance. There's none of this. And that's what I worry about of what reskilling and upskilling actually turns into, because I've worked for a number of companies in the last 5 years where that's literally what it was. Managers were like, hey, make sure you get 20 hours in this quarter of training. Didn't matter what the training was. I could have learned how to make a sandwich. And it would have counted. There's no tracking. That's why I wish that showing value were higher, because none of these ever seemed to work. Because there was nobody who really understood what the value of what you were trying to learn was. Like, I want to learn blank. How does it help the business? You didn't ask that question. Yeah. I'm like, that's not what you were looking for. So no. I wish that's my concern, is the execution is just going to be bad. It's going to be arbitrary. Training is arbitrary. Make up your own value. Do it on a whim.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think it interested me as well to see coaching and mentoring in fourth. That was great to see. Kara's dropped some comments in, setting money on fire as we were talking about the re-onboarding of people, which is I think accurate. Yes. And so sick of the sentiment that people haven't been working for the last 2 years. Exactly. I think that's my biggest hesitance around the whole re-onboarding thing, is that actually most of your employees are fine. It's you and your management kind of level that's freaking out about all this stuff. Right. Like pretty much everyone, like some people have really struggled with working at home, but they've not suddenly lost the ability to do their job. Yeah. They don't need re-onboarding. They just prefer working in the office. So put them back in the office.
Discipline, it's a different discipline.
Absolutely. But they have not forgotten, some of these people have been doing their jobs for years and years and years and years, and now you're going to re-onboard them because they've had to work from home for a while.
Yeah. It's kind of a slap in the face.
It is a little bit, isn't it? Like a lot of people have really worked hard, or most people have really worked hard this last 2 years. And
it's not harder.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like this, but I have to create a process for working from home. I have to make everything more efficient, because now I got to take care of the dogs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. But no, I was pleased to, just on the actual results, I was pleased to see coaching and mentoring, people are perceiving that, and it's not just high, it's high and increasing year on year.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, coaching has kind of been seen as it's something that happens once L&D is done. So L&D do their bit with the training and all this kind of thing, and then their line manager or whatever will need to coach them or mentor them. And I think increasingly we're realizing that actually those elements need to be part of the learning and development strategy. They're tools in our toolkit, not something that only other people can use.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, number 9, also increasing, consulting more deeply with the business. So, it just, a demand for more meaning is what I'm grabbing from this a little bit, which I
Yeah.
like.
And I think overall, I'm very positive about everything that I see here, with the exception of points 12 and 13, artificial intelligence and virtual and augmented reality. The fact that both of them are tracking so far ahead of curation is what concerns me.
Yeah.
Because I get that curation has always been the poor uncle to content creation, but it's what businesses should be doing. I mean, if considering how many businesses are saying we've got no time, we've got no budget, we've got no resource, well, curation of existing content is the solution to your problem, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's or one of the solutions.
One of them,
a tool that will
Don't
help
spend all
you
your time trying to
solve
find
that.
the things.
Yeah, this is it. You need to curate pre-existing content rather than trying to create everything from scratch.
Yeah. I can say that working in SaaS agencies, one of the biggest issues when you have in big tech is if you don't have a collaborative effort for training, you have every department creating their own thing. And then your confluence turns into information vomit and option paralysis. And half of what your job is as a trainer is to bring all of that together or create the whole thing from scratch, which is usually for me is I had to create the whole thing from scratch because that content was just constantly outdated. Once one department did it, you didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I'd put it higher on the list.
Yeah, I think it just concerns me that it's so low, considering this is a survey targeted at learning professionals, people who do the job in some degree. It worries me to see it below mobile delivery, for instance. It worries me to see it below artificial intelligence and virtual and augmented reality. Those things are shiny, but they're not useful. It's certainly not to the tune 14. Of certainly not to the tune of like 5%. It's but that's all right. That's just me.
Phil's got a comment.
Oh, what's saying? Here we go.
It's interesting as to how you measure it, and you did a thing.
I did. Look at that.
I really got to figure out this platform because this is cool.
It's nice, isn't it?
Anyway,
for anyone interested, we're using Melon. Melonapp.com. There we go.
Anyway, skills is interesting as to how you measure it and measure to show improvement. For example, how do you measure your communication or listening or design skills? Got asked this week. I love that stuff. I love the conversation about trying to analyze soft skills things.
Yeah. And I think there's
a puzzle.
Yeah. And I think, funnily enough, I had this conversation earlier today about how I think part of the challenge here is we refer to quite often these big statements like common one in soft skills, right? Show empathy to the customer. That's not a thing. Like, empathy's a thing, but define what that looks like. Oh, it looks like using active listening. Okay, that's a skill. I can measure whether someone's done that. Oh, right. You should, at some point say whatever skills make up be showing empathy towards someone. That's what you can target. Empathy is a prime example of just a big bubbly thing that how do you score empathy?
You used their name twice.
Exactly. That's
no, by the way, that's not doesn't work.
But you could have used it a third time, so you're only 66% on your empathy ranking.
You know what's awful about that? You know what's actually miserable about that? My training career got started at Constant Contact. I was a call center rep. I was on, and that was actually one of our QA lines of how many times did we use the customer's name.
Oh,
you could actually get docked for not saying it. I forgot. I don't think it was 3. I think it was 2. But I do remember that one of them is if you didn't say it when you confirmed their contact information, when you confirmed their account information, you had to respond with their name. And if you didn't,
probably not the most helpful way to manage that and get it done properly. But
I mean, I wanted to call him jackass half the time, so it was probably good that I had a different word.
Yeah, this is fair enough. But yeah, no, but I think that is the key. It's actually breaking it down into skills that can be measured and aligning the soft skills to real business metrics. Because the other thing with soft skills is businesses don't want their people to have soft skills just for the sake of it. They want them because of the business results good soft skills deliver. So internally, that will be, employee retention, higher levels of performance through collaboration, blah, 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 blah. Because again, you can't mark collaboration, but if your team is collaborating well, they should be more productive. You can measure productivity.
So do you have a little bit more hope for this future, the future of this type of training, given that, number 2, on the rise is collaborative and social learning?
I would like to. It depends. if for instance we go collaborative and social learning and we go, oh yeah, you mean 70-20-10, then no, we are doomed.
No. Okay. Fair point.
But if we genuinely started thinking about how does L&D aid collaboration, because the answer there more often than not is get the fuck out of the way. Let people get on and work together. And stop insisting that everyone needs to attend a collaboration workshop before starting a project. If you would never get that in a company full of engineers, let's say, because engineers inherently their job is to get together, work together, build stuff, because they know that no individual among them can do the whole job.
Right. So I still like the approach that I've done with WebEx. It's actually why fun fact, I don't know if you know this, Tom. WebEx is actually my favorite tool to do online learning with.
Okay.
Because of the annotation feature.
Ooh.
And one of the best ways that I've been able to get a group of people together and collaborating and talking is by allowing their responses to be anonymous, which is what the annotation feature lets you do. So I can put interactions on the screen that says, hey, mark stuff or draw stuff, and nobody necessarily knows who's speaking. But through that and through kind of talking about who drew the flower, because somebody always draws a picture, that I take the intimidation of that collaboration away. I take all of that, like I'm not great in front of people. You throw it out the window, and by the end of the course, everyone's talking. I'd love to see more tools that let collaboration be anonymous for a bit.
That's really
and then let the learner build on it. It worked great because I'm in a room with salespeople, VPs, and worse, data guys. They don't want to talk, but you bet they will move their mouse. I love WebEx for training that kind of stuff, and it made it into kind of a social experiment. I actually was able to use it to figure out how people were doing, just how are you absorbing based on how loopy they went with their drawings after a while. Like by hour 3, if I'm starting to get like smiley faces instead of like check boxes, I'm like, we're going to take a break. It was great.
Oh, cool. It's interesting.
Jamboards, Miro's. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I was really excited about that one because Miro's the one that I've used for that kind of thing in the past, but I hadn't realized you could make people anonymous in it. That's awesome. I'll have a look. But Luke's come in as well. Measuring soft skills, public speaking, practice in front of a camera with coaching, and record all sessions from the first nervous take to the last take, being confident. Do you know what? I kind of agree with you, actually. I think it's the kind of thing where public speaking, I think, is a prime example of where every instructional designer at some point, I know I've created far too many of them, has probably had to create content on this or giving good presentations or whatever. And that's fine to a point, but you kind of always know that, especially if you just created a piece of e-learning for it, it ain't going to get the job done. No. You are kind of it's kind of like showing someone the bits of the car and then going, and there is your driving license. Away you go. Good luck. It's not going to go well. That first presentation is going to be a car crash, but they're going to be completely unprepared for that. Now, here's the secret. It's always going to be a car crash because it's your first presentation, but a coach can prepare you for that. A coach can get you into the mindset of it's going to go badly at first, and that's fine. In fact, that's good because you want it to be that way so that you can get better. If your first presentation is an absolute knockout, you'd be mega stressed because the expectation is that you get better over time. I think, and that's a prime example of where a coach or a mentor is going to be far more effective than a than traditional L&D, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, to echo Luke's, actually, when I took public speaking in college, we had to record our first one, and then we had to do the same speech at the end and record that one, and we watched both side by side, and it was really cool.
I think it's a great way for public speaking. I think it's also an underutilized tool for everything. I designed some training not long ago aimed at executive level people working in a technical space, kind of chief technical officers, but it was all about delivering effective one-to-ones with employees.
Okay.
And one of the things we said was, so what we want you to do over the next 6 months is choose one of the people that you have regular one-to-ones with and video every single one with their permission, get their feedback, and then a week after you've done the session, watch it back and review yourself. And review yourself based on what we're talking about in these sessions that we're running. And each session, you should then come back to it each month, because it's a 6-month program. And you should be able to come back and say, okay, so when I reviewed myself this month, I picked up on X, Y, and Z. I've got better at this. This hasn't working. I think it works really, really well. But people are, in my experience, very hesitant at first. Getting in front of a camera is scary, especially doing your job to be reviewed.
Yeah.
But
I like when people talking.
Yeah, just going to say, Luke said they use the recording approach in media training for TV interviews as well. That makes sense. Yeah. And Phil's got some platform info. So we saw a great feature on a platform, but can't remember the platform, that you could give reactions, but also options for out of date, factually wrong. Oh, that's interesting. Do you know what?
Like, this is incorrect.
But I think that's actually quite interesting, because a lot of companies are hesitant to bring in kind of knowledge sharing platforms because of exactly that. That people will share something that is or was true, and then there's a change, or that they've just been doing wrong for years and now they're suddenly going to be found out. I think actually that's a really effective way of being able to manage that. Because then if you're scrolling through and you go, oh, that's good information, but then you see that actually this is out of date icon attached to it. Marvelous.
That's pretty cool.
Good
way to start the conversation of like, well, what's your information? Where are you getting it from?
This is it.
That. I like it a lot, actually.
And actually, from a reporting perspective, to be in the position to go, okay, I'm just going to run a report on everything that's been flagged as inaccurate or out of date information. Then suddenly you've got a list of, there are people in the business who think X, Y, and Z. Is this causing us a problem?
I've got to be weird as my doorbell just rang, so I'm going to let you talk for a minute.
There we go. But yeah, you could take that kind of report on, how often those things are coming up, and really could then consider, obviously, do we have a problem with data protection? Yeah, let's say yes, we do. And then, but actually, I've noticed that on the platform, there's a whole series of things being posted as factually incorrect around the qualification of a customer when they call in around data protection. So there's a lot of potential in a tool like that. That's very, very cool. Yeah.
So it was actually UPS. It was actually an actual thing.
Hey, that's good.
That also shuts up the dog.
Awesome. But yeah, so I think there's lots of potential there. I think it'll be interesting to see how it's managed, and what I guess it'll be interesting to see how platforms adapt to these as well. Because I'm seeing a lot of platforms jump on the metaverse nonsense. It's ridiculous. I went to a webinar the other evening and logged into. And
in the background,
it took them about 20 minutes to get into with the metaverse on the horizon. And it's the one thing that made me feel better. The viewer count plummeted.
No, oh no.
He's just like, a solid half the people there were just like, no, bye-bye.
Wait, so did they walk in knowing that it was a conversation about the metaverse? And were we talking like
No,
the
it was.
actual metaverse or just the concept of a metaverse?
Well, again, there's so many issues with it, isn't there? So ultimately, like, the concept is interesting, but a long, long way away. The product, Metaverse from Meta, Facebook, it, of course, is here right now. It's crap. It's just another money grab and a way to advertise to you. It is not in any way useful to the learning world. It's just not, and I don't think it's going to be either. Because ultimately, the way it's going is there is no such product as the metaverse. There will be lots of them created by Facebook is creating their own. You can guarantee there will be some kind of Apple focused one. There will be one from the likes of, I'm not sure if Twitter will bother. Twitter's pretty contained, really. But all these big tech companies, Microsoft will do one. Valve might do one. That actually might be quite cool because that might be immersive gaming, which is the one area that I can see VR actually doing quite well in.
Michael, you want to get a client off of Meta? Show them PlayStation Home. There you go.
Yeah. So
there you go. You solve that problem. If you can't get gamers in on the concept of getting to put themselves into kind of an immersed world where you can do literally anything, you are not going to get somebody who's not a gamer.
Yeah.
PlayStation Home is an absolute disaster. It was a stupid idea. It was a stupid idea when it started, and they've never made it better, and they've abandoned the project since.
This is it, and I feel like like I was just saying here, it's a shiny object that was not going to fulfill what they wanted. That's exactly it. And at the moment, that is where we sit with those technologies, whether it's VR, AR, I think is more promising, but is still not really consistently there. I don't think. It's very cool, and I get the pull. I really do, and it sounds great as a business to go. Oh, we're investing in the future of training with virtual reality to give you a more immersive learning experience and blah blah. It all sounds so great, but it just doesn't exist.
Immersive doesn't mean good.
Well, no, there is also that. I think
there you go. You're learning. It's like you said. I'm going to show you the parts of an engine, and that's going to be your driving lesson. It's no different than doing the exact same thing, but now you get to hold the pieces of the engine. Can't believe businesses are even considering metaverse as a training option. I'm right there with you. What are you going to get out of it?
But
if gamification isn't going to work, this doesn't gain anything.
But we're forgetting this is the same world where for how long now have we heard we're going to get TikTok? TikTok is the future of L&D. The same as Netflix was before that. And I don't know, stone tablets before that, whatever it was.
All right.
So
let me jump on that one. The TikTok thing.
Because
I've made my first TikTok on Decks and Drafts.
Oh, you are the expert in the room at this point.
I am suddenly the expert in the room. One, it's actually like the interface is not bad, actually. As far as being able to create stuff, as far as what you can do on the mobile, on a mobile device, as far as the editing and whatnot, I'm fairly impressed. It's got really good caption. It's got great captioning. So the video that I did was I was showing people how to spot counterfeit cards. And I took a minute doing it. I showed a lot of information in a minute and took a lot of thought. Like you got to be good at it. You got to be good at how do you cut a lot of information into a 1 minute thing. And there was a lot of traction on that. I see how getting information out through TikTok can be a really cool thing.
Totally.
I don't see it as learning. Getting information out and training are two different things. I think the industry is still very confused on the two. I see that being a thing. I don't see training being a thing.
That's the thing. I could see it as an approach to comms. I could totally see that. Mm-hmm. Like a little, well, heck, we do little 1 minute videos to advertise webinars. It's just another platform to push one of those out on ultimately. But I think the bigger problem around it is just going to be TikTok's success lies in getting people to fall into a black hole and spend a lot of time going through. That's not helpful in a workplace environment.
Yeah, I think the thing that many people with TikTok don't understand is that you following somebody doesn't mean it's the only thing you see on the feed. There's no way to just say, just follow our company and you will see updates in TikTok from our company. No, you're not going to see just that. You're going to see Lucy and her dog and her cat and a fire and a giraffe. And you're going to maybe find yours. And that's the issue. The problem isn't what you can do with TikTok as a platform. The problem is how you get people to that information. And there's no way for that. That's not a thing in TikTok. They don't want it to be a thing.
But also, it's like, I was speaking to someone the other day and they're like, it was just short videos. It's like, yeah, so why are we talking about TikTok at all then? Short videos have existed for as long as there have been videos.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an example of how, I don't know, these ideas seem to need to latch onto something exciting and cool. You know, and I always want to say the fact that they're exciting and cool is probably a good indicator that L&D should leave it alone, because we are the weird aunt of the workplace. We're the relatives that got onto Facebook and made everyone else go, "Oh, Facebook." You know, we should probably just leave some of the fun, cool stuff to the kids, and then focus on actually delivering value to the business.
Yeah, and these are the same people who are like, you can't add music to training. Like, that's all you do in TikTok. Just add music to things. Yeah. Never understood why organizations want to mix social media with internal business affairs. Oh, buddy. Oh, I love that. Because I had to onboard my company to freaking Salesforce Chatter. You want to know the biggest waste of money I have ever seen a company do is upgrading a 6,000 person company to Salesforce Chatter. Oh. Nobody used it. Nobody knew how to use it. All that it was a glorified, here's how to find things in Confluence. Like, it's a link sharing tool.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea of something. Sorry, my headphones are falling out. I like the idea of something like Yammer, for instance, being an internal comms platform where you can push out campaign-related learning pieces. But having worked at places with it, the reality I found is that no one uses it.
Yeah. Like just feel free to oversimplify. That's why Slack works so well. It's just simplified. I don't have a news feed in Slack. I just have the conversation in the moment.
That's it.
That's all I care about half the time.
Yeah. And that's why I still feel like Microsoft with Viva in Teams has nailed it. I've got the ability, if I'm a manager, to go, right, grab that bit of learning, pass it back onto them, away you go. Send them a link directly in Teams, go straight to the learning, done.
Yeah. And that's why we need curation.
Pretty much.
Social learning, throw that away. Get curation up there, get off Chatter, get in Slack. Slack curation, done. You win.
Yeah. This is
it. I had that same issue with Yammer, Luke. I've tried it before. I think the issue with ours is that it just looks so archaic. When you went into it, it looked old. It's the same reason nobody uses Cornerstone correctly, is because it just looks old.
Yeah, I think it's...
Just don't make it gray. Just stop with gray.
That will help. Without a shadow of a doubt, that will help. But yeah, I feel like overall, these results are positive.
Yeah, I like so many of these are bigger picture. Like a lot of these are bigger picture. Reskilling and upskilling, okay, but still bigger picture. It's still, I want to amplify my entire workforce. Collaborative, I want to amplify the experience. Personalization, I love that personalization and adaptive delivery is up there, by the way. I just don't know anybody that can execute it very well. But I'd like for that to be a thing. Coaching and mentoring, amp up skills. Learning analytics is 5 and showing value is 10. Shut up. January that was a duplicative stat.
I think so. I think partially because it's measuring sentiment, and this is asking L&D, there is the inherent not issue, but there has to be that inherent understanding of some of these terms do not have very well defined definitions, and some of them do overlap. So I think you're right, but I don't think that this research, it's rare, I think, in our industry, in that it's carried out very well. It's carried out sensibly by people who know what they're doing. The Learning Performance Institute obviously backed this up. And I mean, Donald Taylor is, very, very well known, well respected, knows what the heck he is doing.
Yes.
And that makes a big difference, because so many of the, especially survey-based things in our industry, are run off the back of trying to market stuff. And that goes for whether it's an individual, whether it's a small business, or whether it's an edtech platform who's written a whole series of complex white papers that are actually just, our platform's great, you should buy it, dressed up as research. It's nice to see something. Yeah, it's nice to see something that is not trying to push a solution or a product. It's genuinely just trying to capture an understanding of what the industry is thinking right now.
Yeah. You have to go all the way to number 8 to get to a technology.
Yes, that is reassuring. That's very nice to see. If that continues
to
drop
on this link, by the way, I'm going to reshare it so you know that, because we've gotten some new people since.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a link in there actually to the whole research, the whole website for it, where there is tons more information. This is very much an overview, and we're not going to dive into the detail of it because it would be an entire show in of itself.
Before it becomes an entire show in and of itself.
Yeah, let's talk tech. Well, here's my exciting tech update.
Not excited.
This is super exciting. Graphics cards are now available at the MSRP.
Yeah.
This is exciting stuff. The cost of computing is returning to just being ludicrously expensive. Look at that. But this is exciting. This is good news for innovation moving forwards. Because I think a lot of stuff was going to be held off, put back, delayed. Because if you can't get enough silicon to actually ship the product, what's the point in wasting your product launch cycles and not making any money? I know certainly we've seen AMD push back pretty heavily on things like their 3D cache chips, where they were taking their Ryzen 5000 CPUs and adding this 3D cache to them. So you ended up with like 32 megabytes of L3 cache. Nerd alert. We're talking about L3 cache, people. Put your seatbelts on.
Where's your sound effect for that?
1 moment. What I mean is that's 32 megabytes of L3 cache. Big stuff.
I love this app so much.
But yeah, so we've got that, and it was going to be loads of chips. We're going to get it one. They added it to one CPU. The 5800X, making the 5800X 3D. Great chip, but it's meant that no one wants to buy it because it's so blatantly obvious that it is a stopgap product, just taking a seat in the market so that Intel isn't the only one with a release this year, so that once silicon kind of picks up again and TSMC can meet demand, they will, they'll roll out the, it'll be I would assume 6,000 series, maybe 7,000. It'll be 7,000 series. And it'll be notably better. I won't keep going on about this, but it's really exciting that the cost of computing components is coming back down, because it means whether you build your own or you're upgrading, or probably more commonly in our world, you're going to buy a laptop, those costs are going to start becoming more normal again, and innovation will start to pick up again, because we have seen it slightly stagnate over the last couple of years as silicon prices went up, battery prices went through the roof, even panel displays got real pricey, and so laptop manufacturers lost their margin. So exciting
I'm in the
times.
market for a laptop, so I'm very much in the market for a laptop, so it'll be nice to it'll be good to see.
Yeah, lots of choice out there, which is nice. Lots of choice. Maybe
bulging is the problem. Like the actual capacity of the battery is actually bulging. So
that's not great.
No, I had to fly to Reno and do an expo with a laptop that was an inch away from exploding. That felt good.
Nice, yeah. Awesome. Plane goes down. It's like it's him. It's his laptop.
Oh, that's not why that plane would have been down. So when you fly so I went to Reno. And Reno is in a wind tunnel. And if you catch it at the wrong moment, you bounce around a lot. And we actually got 500 feet from the ground and then had to go back to 10K because we could not get it was just too much. We had to approach it from a completely different direction. It was frustrating. But it was a game manufacturers conference, which was a blast. It was so much fun. I learned so many things.
I'm mega gutted that I wasn't able to go, because I really wanted to go purely because Duncan Rhodes launched his new range of miniature paints there. Duncan Rhodes, Mr. Two Thin Coats himself, savior of the miniature painting world. That's nice. But he's a really quite, he's launched his own paint, and he was there, as it turns out. There were some YouTubers who do that stuff sharing that they'd tried out his paints. So I'm very jealous.
Cool. I didn't see that. Wow. I got a lot of free things. Anyway, let's talk other tech things. Tech just updates as I tend to do. I really only focus kind of on the big three as far as the tools are concerned. Which one is always a joke, except for this month. I don't know what's going on though. Like I've worked in. Thank you. Thank you, Tock. I've worked in tech quite a bit. This month is surprising in that there's nothing new. Everything's bug fixes, which scares me a little bit, actually, because whenever you have an entire month, especially at the end of a quarter, of just bug fixes, that means you started with performance problems, which worries me because those don't go away. Like you see the same thing in April, May. But Storyline's bug fix, Camtasia's bug fix, nothing new. Nothing new, which is weird. Nothing even enhanced as far as like Storyline. Like they didn't even enhance anything. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Do you remember a little while ago when we looked at they all went through a bout of raising quite a lot of money, and Storyline raised like scary money.
You think they're just saving?
I kind of wonder. One of the biggest problems of Storyline is technical debt, in that we've had 1, 2, 3, and 360 all sat on the same code base.
Yes.
Therefore, it's very difficult to make a fundamental change, which I think we would all agree is what Storyline now requires. The age of the 16:9 e-learning is coming to an end. Thank goodness. So, they need something new, and it ain't Rise. Let's be clear about that. Rise is not the answer to their challenges. Rise is their 3D CPU. I think it's a stopgap product. They panicked when they realized, mobile is going to be a thing, kind of, and they made Rise. That's fine.
14, according to our list.
Well, yeah, but I wonder if that money, rather than going into more Storyline stuff, is going to go into whatever the Storyline replacement product is. Okay. Because when you look at a platform like Domino, if anyone's used Domino, you'll know they're kind of like Storyline 360 in that they have a 16:9 creator and they have a web creator, but the functionality of the two is much closer to being the same as opposed to Rise versus Storyline.
Right.
That's where Storyline need to be, I think, to maintain their market kind of ownership. You know, I think that maybe that's where that money's going. Maybe I'm being overly positive and optimistic, but I would love it if that's where the money was going.
Just get a Mac version. There, you've got your market share back. Welcome to the party. All right, Carol. Here we go.
Funny you should mention.
What about Captivate? I hear that a new UX is being redesigned. So as you talk about storyline possibly waiting for something big, it's very possible they're holding for this, or they're trying to do something to get in front of it. Couple things from Captivate. One, I kind of missed last month because we usually spend all of our time laughing at Captivate. But February 16th on, there is no perpetual license for Captivate anymore. It is all subscription based. Now I'm taking that in addition to another thing. First off, Carol, you're right. They are absolutely redesigning. It is called Adobe Project Charm. It is slated to be released sometime in the 21st century. Don't know when. I love these things. So it's called Adobe Project Charm. It's been in development for way too long, but yes, they are working on a UX redesign. It looks standard, honestly. I've seen some videos on it. But September 2021, they started inviting beta testers for it. That didn't mean they gave them a beta test. It just meant that they were compiling their list. Last week, they started sending out emails, basically reconfirming people's interests. So you mix that with the perpetual license going away, and I'm starting to wonder if they're reaching that point, getting into like beta and release mode, like Q2, Q3 kind of release. So that could be interesting. You mirror that with Storyline not doing anything for a while, because they haven't done anything for a while. The last thing that they did was VR, and they sort of touched up on that, but they haven't done anything major for ages. Maybe this is the year where Captivate jumps in. If you look up, Carol, Adobe Project Charm, you can see a little bit of the UX that they're going for. It's the same as XD. It's the same as Storyline, but as far as their menus, it looks very Storyline. It's very thin gray lines. Everything's white. Everything's sort of graphic, kind of. There's a lot more media to it, though. There's a lot more visuals. I think that they're still leveraging the kind of a media library for things, which I'm all about. That is one of the few things that I actually liked about Captivate. I didn't think it was executed well, but I loved having just full library access constantly that I can constantly be sharing. And, I can have a project template that wasn't just a scene of slides that I need you to copy and paste. I liked that. I was a fan. Devlin, if you know anything more about Project Charm, let us know. I just know they've done a couple of videos. They have re-sparked interest in the beta literally in the last couple of days, which is really exciting. Huzzah.
Yeah.
Let's go. And no perpetual, and now you got to buy it on subscription.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That's not cool. Like, the one reason that I had some hope for Captivate being the authoring tool of the moment, and part of the reason why was the existence of the perpetual license option. Because I get that for some people it's not an issue, and it's my particular gripe isn't necessarily around money. It's the fact that, can I not just own something anymore?
Right?
Why should I have to pay you every single month for software? It used to come on a CD, and I say this because this is weird, but Photoshop Photoshop CS4 purchased a copy when it was still on CD, and my mum has it because she likes to do photography, but she doesn't need the Adobe Creative Cloud at 50, 60, whatever it is a month now.
$51.99.
Yeah, this is it. She doesn't need to pay that for messing around with some photographs. So we take that CD and we find a CD drive, because they're not that common anymore, and we install it with that. She owns it forever. Why should customers pay forever for a product? It's ridiculous.
I actually like the middle ground that exists with Camtasia.
Yes.
Which is, if you don't know, it's $250 normally. You pay it once, and then you can pay basically a $50 maintenance fee every year. And what the maintenance upgrade gets you is, one, access to upgrades. It's also upgraded support access and all of that. It's just kind of a glorified access to thing. But it also gets you the next version free. The whole next version is free. It's a part of the $50 a year thing. And then when you get that one, you upgrade that. And you do the maintenance fee, and you keep going. I like the subscription service being a $50 a year thing. And it's like a perpetual license that they still get to keep making money off of. And it's cheap.
But it's also optional. That's the thing. It is optional. So if you as a business are not sure, you're not signing yourself into a long-running annual contract that's going to cost you a freaking fortune. You're buying a piece of one license for one bit of software, and then if you want to go back and buy the maintenance, you can. That's fine, but you don't have to.
Yeah, and you don't have to get like free. If you want to pay $52 for Adobe, you pay an entire year. If you try to get out of that contract, that you basically signed a subscription contract, which any company that forces you into a subscription contract sucks. See my phone. Stupid T-Mobile. Anyway, this episode not sponsored by T-Mobile.
No, but yeah, I think it's sad that has become so the norm in the industry, and to an extent, I get it with things like web-hosted platforms, for instance. I get that. No one is going to buy, for instance, the platform we're on now. No one is going to buy a perpetual license for it, or very few people will. Most people who do live streaming want to pay a little bit a month, and that's what it costs them to do all their live streaming. Whereas, I don't know, it just everything. Well, here we go. The prime example. Saw a headline today that Apple is going to launch a new subscription service. Well, if Apple are doing it, it must be awfully, or just awful. It must be the most anti-consumer thing around if Apple are doing it.
If I were a Mac fan, which I'm not, episode not sponsored by Apple, I would only buy a subscription for when new phones come out, as long as I can upgrade the phone when it breaks after a day, or when they announce the new one a week later. I'll pay $20 a month, so that way when I get the Apple 13 and the Apple 13Q and the Apple 13R and the Apple 13SX, I can just upgrade whenever I want. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like Monday I'll get the L, Tuesday I'll get the S. And then I'll get the Apple 14 that following Tuesday.
But it's sad that everything has to be a subscription now. Especially in the world of corporate software. I never thought we would get, because I never thought businesses would stand for it, if I'm honest. It amazes me that they do.
No, well, it doesn't shock me at all, because what is it, when you compare it, it looks like a microtransaction. Subscriptions nowadays are just microtransaction thinking. Why spend $1,000 when I only have to spend $50 a month? Why spend $600 on an Adobe product when I can spend $50 a month? 50 feels less until you realize that by month 11 you're overpaying, but you're not thinking about it by month 11. 50 is much more manageable. This is the same problem with your Netflix and your Hulus and your Amazon Primes, that, hey, cable is $120, $130 a month when you can get Netflix for $14. You stack all of it up, it's a heck of a lot more than cable, but nobody's thinking about it. It's the same logic with tech companies. It works.
Yeah, I think that's it. I kind of
absolutely.
Yeah, gym memberships are exactly the same. But I expect it with consumers. I don't or didn't expect it maybe in the past from businesses who are supposed to be more clued on to this stuff, But clearly not.
Yeah. Any open source alternatives for Adobe apps? I haven't used enough of them, but I don't know what open source. I don't know too many open source. I just know that I like what a lot of people are doing with Canva. I think it's a wonderful, cheaper alternative, but I don't know too much about the free stuff.
Yeah. So I'm for my core sort of daily driver machine, I run Linux. So yes, I'm all about open source.
Hit that nerd button.
Absolutely. You got Inkscape to open your what we've got. You got Inkscape to open your Illustrator documents, Signfig Studios for your animation for After Effects, or Blender. But Blender has a heck of a learning curve to it.
I remember Blender.
This is it, and Blender's good. Like, Blender's really good. I mean, you can do animation in Blender as well, but that has like the learning curve of learning curves on it.
Speaking of what's been really good that I've been enjoying, because I've been playing with it more the last month, is I'm loving DaVinci Resolve.
Isn't it good?
I'm learning curve from hell, but if you've done it enough, it's not that hard. I really like it.
Do you know what? I think once you get into it and you get used to that being the system with which you edit your videos, and it's free, it's a fantastic platform. And I tell you what, the one thing that for me made it my editor of choice, sorry, I just have to unplug this to be able to show it, is the speed editor.
I used to work on an old Avid machine back when I was in college. We had an Avid machine. It's that. I love that. I love those things. Yep. Once you get used to it.
And this is literally a couple of £100. So, but compared to, you would pay a lot more for, or at least the same for a similar sort of device for Premiere Pro, let's say. Exactly, but it'll be huge. Monster. And you're still going to then have to pay for Premiere Pro every month.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whereas you're not going to pay at all for DaVinci Resolve. You don't have to buy something like that, but I find that it's just the final thing that makes it so easy to edit in. Because literally, when I'm editing a video, I use this and my mouse, nothing else. And I very rarely have to reach for my mouse.
I've never actually edited a video in Premiere Pro outside of college because I learned After Effects and learned it did everything that Premiere did, but better, and added motion graphics. And and I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. Why is Premiere a thing?
Yeah, so I do still edit in Premiere, but that's only because After Effects the biggest difference is it loads stuff differently to your system. So After Effects hammers your system memory. The same as Photoshop does, interestingly. Whereas I found that Premiere hammers my GPU, but doesn't hit my system memory quite as hard. Which again,
I just have to accept. That might explain some of the slowness. I hit the render button, I walk away, take a nap.
Oh yeah, this is it. The only reason it bothers me is because the RAM gets hotter than the GPU and isn't directly cooled. It causes the fans in the main body to spin up and the computer gets louder. So it just irks me. First world problems, right?
First world problem. My fan is too loud.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think the free options out there are better than they have ever been. I think DaVinci Resolve is top of the list in terms of the top quality free tools.
So good.
It's phenomenal. It doesn't feel like a free tool, and that's always a good sign. And then you've got Adapt as an authoring tool as well. Free, open source. It loves running on Linux. It's the easiest place to set it up. But you can set it up on Windows. You can even set it up on a Mac. Apple fight you every step of the way, but
I want to actually do little sound effects because I want to do the thing.
What the?
I don't think I get access. Ooh, there we go.
There we go.
I've got to get on this. I want to do more live streaming anyway.
Cool. Right. So, any more on the tech front?
Yeah, Carol, seriously, DaVinci Resolve. If you have done video editing before, DaVinci Resolve is going to, I'm not going to say second nature, but it's going to feel a little bit more comfortable than if you haven't done it.
Yeah. It's very much aimed at cinema editing. That's the thing. That's what it was designed for. Thus, the controls are really well made. So it has that kind of editor creator as opposed to just being editor in the film editor sense, as opposed to just being a video editor. And it is used on big films. Therefore, you actually benefit from the kind of requests that they have get built into the software, but it's free. There is a paid version, and there is more in the paid version, but I've
so
never. I mean, I've got the paid version because it's a one-off license. You don't have to keep paying them. You can just buy it. It's wonderful.
How much is it?
I want to say it's like 250 quid, somewhere in that ballpark.
Nothing.
And on
That's
a regular basis, like every year, they do a deal where you can buy the mini editor, like the one I just showed you, and get the software for free, or vice versa.
Oh wow! Oh, that's cool.
Because that's when I bought. That's when I upgraded from the free one to having the platform. Because I bought the controller, and it was like, you get the paid one for free. It's like, cool.
Yeah, I need to upgrade my machine. I need to upgrade my machine before I do something like that. But
yeah, and that's always the struggle, isn't it? Right, is keeping the hardware up with the software. But yeah, I personally think it's the best video editor out there by some distance.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I won't disagree now that I've seen it. I'm always a Camtasia champion just because I like how much quality you can get for very little effort. But as far as like some of the challenges that I have, I've never looked at Camtasia as a video editor more than a video composer.
Yes.
Because that's all that it does. It just assembles. But when you get into like situations right now where I'm blurry, I'm off color, I'm a little blue. Like you can't color correct for crap in Camtasia. I know it's there. It's so bad. It's real bad. It is the articulate rise of color correction.
And thing is, you've got whilst I would agree, I'm not a fan of video editing in Camtasia, but that's because I'm not the target audience. You know, it's aiming at e-learning. You don't color correct video in e-learning.
No, half the time you're making the graphics from scratch anyway.
Exactly. And if you do, does anyone really? Does anyone other than us care enough to sit there and color correct your stupid video of your CEO welcoming them to the business and pretending that they live and breathe the values?
God, I would love that. I would love an NPS score on a training video of like a 3 for reasons of it looked a little more cyan. Oh, like come on! I would love that.
Please apply an adjustment layer to future videos to ensure this doesn't occur. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you could have upped the threshold of the green screen there. I was like, okay.
That's it. It's awesome. Like generally you're only going to get comments on the video if it's terrible.
Of course.
It was good. Thank you. Yeah. That's
also, fine. Fun fact, please never use NPS to grade your training. It's terrible and I hate it, and that's a personal preference, but I don't care. I'll go to my grave with that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm sure we spoke about that at length on one of these sessions, didn't we? We spoke about
probably
how NPS
went to town on learning objectives.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I saw that one. I saw that LinkedIn one recently. Of let me see if I can find the comment. You'll be proud of this, actually, because somebody asked to like make a bad training. Here we go. Here it is. All right, so here was the challenge. It was from Karthik Richard. I'd like to create some awful e-learning. Give me your terrible ideas. Which this is a fun thread, by the way. Which the one that he has is gamification 101. Make the next button invisible and randomize its position on each slide. Which I like that. I think that's pretty solid. This would be a fun conversation topic for anybody. But no, I jumped in with create a video where you start out listing learning objectives. At the end, repeat the learning objectives. When you have content relating to a learning objective, remind the learner what the learning objective is. Make the knowledge checks a multiple choice where each option is one of the learning objectives. Make the video 2 minutes long because micro-learning or something, and make 50% of your learning objectives start with understand. And I think that's a good way to do a crappy training.
Industry standard, mate. That's oh yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if you saw that thread, there's some gold on there. Narrator reads the slides and it has closed captioning. I love that stuff. I just
phenomenal. I just you can't make. Thing is, I think what makes it funny is before we all sat there going, "Yep, I've seen that."
Yes,
I have been asked to do that at some point.
I think I'm just gonna. I'll see if I hope that this works. I also love the. There's somebody put down the you can't click the next button on the audio until it's finished reading, even though it's being read verbatim. Love that. Love
you
that.
dropping a link in.
I'm gonna drop that link in right now into chat because that thread was absolute gold.
I mean, Karthik's well worth a follow. He's hilarious. But posts, I want to say he posts every day. It certainly seems like it. And it does always make me smile. Really does. He did one the other day where he was like, I would have given you an audio file, but as you're all visual learners, he just gave us a picture of the waveform. And so the comments just filled with, oh, that decibel spike at 2.5 minutes. I learned a lot from that. That's
so great.
Oh, phenomenal stuff.
I think somebody put in like only plays in Internet Explorer 11.
Oh, fantastic.
It's a fun thread. Like I said, I threw it in the comments. You got to check it out. Throw your own in. I think it was really fun. Nice. But anyway, I know you had a topic that you wanted to cover as well. I'm finishing up beer number 1, so I'm going to adjust to beer number 2, which is an American bitter from Sheephead.
Ooh. So I feel that was kind of like our in other news section where you go on to the lighter hearted parts of the week. Like baby sheep adopted by lion.
And now a plane crash.
That's it. And now the world is on fire. Have a good evening. And here's the weather. So
sunny today, Bob.
So I kind of touched on this at the head of the episode. And I suppose this is a bit like a weather report. Stormy, dark clouds on the horizon and everywhere else. When we look at people getting into the industry, I think there's a growing awareness and concern about the industry has enough space for as many people that want to work in it. Let's be honest, we're all working too much anyway. We'll welcome the help. But the quality of people's, I don't want to say education as they join the industry, because you're not being educated into a job. But the way people are coming in, I think, is not proving to be particularly effective in the long term. Okay. And this last couple of weeks, I think there's been a lot kind of is either come to light or been spoken about and shared around either academies, boot camps, let's say all those kinds of things, all with different issues, it's fair to say. Some far more severe than others. And we had the example of the issues around bullying. One that's pretty. That to me is an outlier, or it may not be as much of an outlier as I'd have thought before, because I've heard of some pretty disgusting things in others as well. But to me, I kind of draw the line between some of them. I think, my God, that's financially a bit of a rip-off for what you're providing, but an actual multiple cases of bullying within it is a different kettle of fish, so you've got that going on. Then you've got this, you've got the cost involved, and the cost is a good place to start, actually, because I was chatting to someone about it who wants to get into learning and development, but they weren't a teacher. One of their questions was, I'm not a teacher, am I allowed to join the industry? And it did make me chuckle.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but I went on to have this whole conversation about how we've kind of got this weird term now of transitioning teacher. You mean you're looking for a new job?
Yeah, that was the trend in 2020. It was a trend in 2021.
Yeah, but I feel like this category is not helpful, because equally I've had people come to interviews and tell me that that's what they are. They're a transitioning teacher. And I've said to them, well, no, you're a teacher looking for a new job. And that's the same as anyone else looking for a new job. This transitioning badge or headline, whatever, I think actually does more harm than good. Because it makes it sound like you don't know what you're doing. It's, at least in my experience, just from talking to people, I don't think it's helpful. Anyway, but that's not the crux of what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was people who are coming in and they're getting this image of, learn a few things, learn how to use Storyline, Rise, Adapt, whatever, and then you're an ID. Go forth and conquer. And I think the first issue is that instructional design is one job out of God knows how many. Oh, that's interesting.
I'm so interested in this.
Oh, so Michael's just commented, as a former transitioning teacher in inverted commas, there is a lot of toxicity within the label and within the groups that push the term. Now, it's interesting because I kind of suspected that, but had no first-hand I've never been in that position, so I couldn't say for sure. It does seem to me like, I don't know, we don't label ourselves like that at any other point. Or we don't label any other group of people getting into learning and development like that. It's just someone getting into L&D or learning L&D or who wants to work in L&D.
Yeah, I'm following up on that, Mike, because I'm really curious what the execution of that is. Not that I'm calling it out or anything like that. It's just I fell into my role from a different position, so I'm not exposed to this. So I'm just curious, is that something that is seen in interviews? Like, oh, you used to be a teacher, and then the interview changes, or the many, many, many threads of I'm a teacher looking to get an ID. Is that comment thread toxic? I'm curious what it looks like.
Definitely.
I'm legit curious what it looks like.
Very interested there. But yeah, so anyway, what I was thinking, and we'll loop back to that if any more comes in, but what I was thinking a lot about was about when I decided I wanted to go and work in learning and development. Didn't really have a clue about what jobs were available. Trainer was what I had seen, and I thought, oh, that looks quite cool, but what else is there? And don't worry about typing too fast. It's fine.
Oh, you're good. We're going to be on this for a little bit. If you need a second break, I love this beer. Holy crap, it's good.
Oh,
there.
good.
I gained you a couple seconds.
There you go. But yeah, so
anyway.
So yeah, I was thinking back to it, and I was trying to think what was different, because it did not feel like it was today. Certainly, there would have been no chance whatsoever I would have taken an online course or attended a boot camp or anything like that. That would have been a no-fly, especially, and some of them are sort of 3, 4, 5, even $6,000. I'm sitting there thinking, if you want to change jobs, that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, especially for a teacher, who chances are you don't get paid enough anyway, and chances are half the reason you're transitioning is because you're out of work. At least that happened during COVID. You can go to work.
This is it. So I think it's interesting that there's now a market for this in of itself. And part of me does wonder if there's only a market that exists because it plays on people's desperation, which is inherently not a good thing. Right. But they again, not being the target market, it's somewhat difficult to say. But what I did think back to was when I did 2 courses when I decided to get into L&D. I did 2 CIPD qualifications, a level 5 and a level 7. So between them, I want to say that's the equivalent of like an A level and something above it, but it's not a degree; it's something else.
Okay.
So it was. They weren't cheap. They were a couple of grand. And they're renowned. They are like the body for L&D in the UK. And at the time, I kind of thought, I'm learning loads, and I learned nothing of use. Not a goddamn thing.
Went to graphic design school, learned nothing of use.
Yeah. Though in fairness, they weren't telling you that it would get you a career in L&D. Whereas that is exactly what these courses were there for. Now, I should say there are some amazing people at CIPD, especially in their learning wing, and it is improving massively. But it's not there yet. I still wouldn't do a course with them at the moment, if I'm honest. But there are fantastic people there making a difference slowly, which is what you have to do in a big organization like that. So I regret spending that time and money. And I realized after doing them that they weren't going to help me get a job, because I was turning up for interviews and I couldn't answer the most basic question about actually creating anything or doing something. All I could talk about was theory and all that kind of stuff. So I reached out to people in the industry that I was impressed by, that I wanted to be like. And I asked, could you give me a bit of time? Could you talk to me about this for a little bit, a minute? And to a person, they said yes. And some gave more time than others, and some didn't, and that kind of thing. And I learned that way. And I learned from people being able to talk about, well, this is what I learned, but actually, this is the reality. And I think that's interesting. And what struck me was what got me, to the point where I was competent in doing things, was having a go, getting it wrong, sending it to people that I knew, asking them to review it, tell me what they thought, asking my manager, who had nothing to do with learning and development. There was no opportunity for L&D progression in the business I was in. Can I have a go at doing something? Could I give this to the team and see what they think to address a problem in store? And then I eventually got to the point where I was like, okay, I can now go forth and apply for jobs. And got it and went that way. It didn't cost me anything. And it just strikes me that that approach doesn't seem to be as popular as buying into a course. And I get that buying into a course has the perceived value of it's organized and packaged. But I think Carol actually asked a really good question.
Who's affirming the quality?
Yeah. Because there are some real issues, I think, with that. And I think the one that I've become very aware of just recently, having done loads of interviews, is the belief that the ability to use a development tool makes you an instructional designer.
I'm a photographer, guys.
Exactly, yeah. It makes you a developer. And that's awesome. That's we need developers. Of course we do. But you ain't an instructional designer. If your portfolio looks like 3 other people that I interviewed the day before, guess what? None of you are getting the job. It's not a good sign when you're telling me about your creativity and the originality of your approach, when all you can do is copy a template from Canva.
My portfolio actually only has one piece of content I ever created on it. It has 15 projects, but there's only one that's actual content. Everything else is a use case. And I explained, here was the problem. Here's how we discovered the problem. Here were the results. Here was the approach. And here's how we did it. And that's done more work for me than anything. Have I actually ever told you how I actually got into the industry?
No, go for it. I think that'd be interesting.
Because you one of the things that you were talking about, I kind of found a need and went for it. Your free approach of, I said, can I just try this? That's actually how I got in. So I started at Constant Contact. I was a tier 1 support rep. I went to tier 2 because I understood the tool, I understood the tech. Tier 2 is getting tier 1 techs come to you, and they ask for help and whatnot. And one of my jobs, or one of the things we like to do, is to try to educate tier 1 on those issues so they don't come back for the same issue. It's a good way. It's a good metric for us of, we can also educate you on how to find those things. So my claim to fame with that was I created a newsletter of, here are the issues. I looked at our tickets. I look at our category counts. Here are the issues that came to us most often. I'm going to create a newsletter of, here's how to resolve that, and send it to the team. So that way they didn't come our way. And they were like, we're doing that. And then the training team came and said, hey, how would you like to do that full-time for not enough money? And I said, I would love to do that full-time for not enough money. And that's how I got into the industry, and also why I left that job.
Full-time for not enough money is how everyone gets into the L&D industry.
Pretty much. But I think there's so much more value in finding a need, filling a need, and being able to prove that you filled that need than I was able to do that in a pretty way.
And I think that's
what you said with that. I loved that you kind of looked and said, I found an opportunity, and I said, can I try this? And then off you go. If I heard that in an interview, you throw your portfolio away. You're hired for that story alone.
And I think this is it. I think there's so much put on, you want to be an instructional designer? Well, the first thing you need is a portfolio. No. The first thing you need is foundational skills and then significant practice. Like, if the first things you ever create are going in your portfolio, just stop. Like that, I would be mortified if anyone I now know were to see the first things I ever created, because they are appalling. I didn't know it at the time.
Created.
It's,
I still have it.
There's no way I would put that in front of someone. But that's why, for me anyway, that's why my focus was very much on, and it's very character here, finding a good mentor is key. I couldn't agree more. I think this is an industry where the experience is where all the value comes in instructional design, because just knowing the theory is not sufficient. Just knowing software is not sufficient. All of the nuance in how to take learning theory and certain elements of psychology and graphic design and visual communication and UX and UI and all these different things, there is no one theoretical thing that binds them together. Only practice will achieve that. And that, for me, is what so many of these people are lacking when they come around to try and get their first job. And I think what strikes me is that the positions I've been interviewing for are for freelance kind of ID development sort of joint roles. And I'm speaking to people who have never done the job but want to freelance in it. And it's like, I can't take I can't afford to take the risk in a freelance position to hire someone with no experience, no real experience, no proven footing in the industry. You can have something, as you said, beautiful in a portfolio, but it's not real if it's not actually been implemented. How effective was it is the question I always ask. And they go, oh, well, it was only for my portfolio, so there is no results. And hey, that's honest. I like that. That, not lying is good. But
as somebody who had to make a graphic design portfolio, I get full control over what the problem is, who the audience is. I get to stack the deck and then say, here's why my solution was perfect for said stacked deck. And that doesn't work. I've never actually really tried a mentor in the industry. I think it's cool though. Anybody who can say, why did you think that was going to work? Not in a condescending way, but like, you showed me this thing. Why do you think that was going to work? And then be able to follow up with, well, here are some thoughts. Can you answer these questions?
Yeah.
What happens with this? What happens with this? Which you don't get out of 1 year of experience either.
No. And that's the thing. I think it's not about saying you must have X amount of time. It's about what you've done. So often when I talk about experience, I don't particularly care how long someone's been doing it, because in the grand scheme of things, I've not been doing it that long. But what I look at, I say, what have I done and what have I failed at and what have I been successful at? Well, I've done several SAP implementations. I've worked on LMS launches. I've chosen LMSs and bought them in. I've gone through that process. I've authored a lot of content, and I can look at those and count the wins and the losses and maybe the draws where things were okay but not great, that kind of thing. That's the type of experience, and I've done it with different businesses. I've had the benefit of working for big businesses, small businesses, freelancing for big and small businesses, working in-house, working as a third-party contractor. All of those give you a different view of what instructional design is and how to go about it in an effective way. And I think that's what's so lacking from so many of these places. So let's have a little look. Now, there's lots of comments come in. I'll just go from where I happen to be scrolled down to. Carol says, here we go. Carol said, finding a good mentor is key. So Michael, he did do a boot camp, but did research to make sure
he was not getting scammed,
and make sure they were a genuine member of the ID community, had the experience to teach. I like that. And I think that's the that's one of the big things, is that there is no I'm not, I'm not a Sith. I don't deal in absolutes. It is a case of what I look at and think, oh my god, you would have to be insane to do that, doesn't mean it's not right for someone else.
Yeah, prove to me why it works.
Yeah, this is it. I think that's kind of really, really fair enough. I think your comment there about self-proclaimed thought leaders is, I know. Yeah,
I got sent a TED Talk recently by a coworker, Pamela, of somebody who literally just said, "This is why you think I'm a thought leader." Like I came in and I used a laptop, so therefore you think that I'm doing something with technology. I have folded my hands, so therefore this is more interesting. I've come to the side and told you a story that was funny because I laughed during it, even though it has nothing to do with my speech. And it's 4 minutes of here's why I am lying to you as a thought leader by calling myself a thought leader. And then he walked off the stage. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
That is awesome, isn't it? Yeah. I thought Mark's quite a good point here, actually. So to equate with teaching, I wouldn't consider a teacher who made it through their first year of teaching as a veteran. You don't start feeling comfortable with teaching until at least 3+ years. You know what? I think that's actually quite a good shout. I think that's a really good point. Is just because I would say the first year in any new thing you do, you are getting through. You are figuring it out. Like, certainly, yeah. I mean, I've made big old mistakes after year 1, that's for sure. I've made big old mistakes after year 3. But I think year 1 is where you tend to drop the real clangers. Year 1 is when you fundamentally misstep. And you design some, not just maybe not great things, but you design stuff that just utterly fails to be effective. Or you don't know for the whole of year 1
you don't know
whether or not you've been effective, because you completely negate to track data and go back and analyze and gain insight.
For me, those are my years of, did I deliver something? Yes, I did my job. And that's all that I had. And
that's not inherently bad.
Huh?
That's not inherently bad. I think it's really important.
Not for the first couple of years.
I think that's your grounding time, right?
Kind of.
Where you do just slog through and you make sure your skills are where you think they are, and you learn from those mistakes. And
I have a senior ID or a lead ID or a manager who can kind of guide me through the rest of that conversation. Or hopefully I have SMEs who are kind enough to be like, here's why that didn't work for us.
But yeah, that's also why I'm, again, personal opinion, but it's based on my experience of doing it and hiring people. It worries me when people jump straight to freelance, because freelance, I mean, you are flying on your own. Like, if you better be good, basically.
Do you think that part of the problem here is that when you hear the various titles in our industry, people don't know what they mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like instructional designer, I was a teacher, instructional designer has the word instruction, so therefore I think they connect. Like, is part of the problem that you're having trying to find people that a conversation actually has to be had on social media of how do I break into this industry as a teacher? Because that's where I struggle. That's my problem, is that it is so confusing to so many people on what we do and what you need for what we do, and what is not even what you need, but what could be valuable for what we do, that you have to get on social media and say, I was a teacher. This seems like a step, but I don't know. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
As an industry, I would be embarrassed if people who have done teaching look at us, which are trainers, practically teachers, and say, I don't entirely know how we connect. I just feel we do because of the name. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. And I think Carol raises an interesting point here. So Carol says, but teachers and experienced designers bring great insights as newbies. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
I would never argue against that. And in fact, recently, one of the guys that I'm working with at IAN that we brought on freelance is an ex-teacher, but he didn't turn up and say, I'm an ex-teacher. He didn't transition the ID or any of that nonsense. He came to me and said, I've chosen to be an instructional designer. Here's what I've done. And he did exactly this. Before he left the school, he took on one of the roles around development among teachers in the area. They have all sort of PD whatever requirements, personal development stuff, and he led that with a digital first approach. So he spent the whole pandemic creating digital content, videos, e-learnings, animations. He got to grips with, he could have conversations around basics, not hugely complicating stuff. That Mayer's sort of Mayer's multimedia principles, all those kinds of conversations, and for like a solid 6 months before applying for the role, we went backwards and forwards of him asking about, what do you think about this, and what do you think I should read, and what would you do to learn this skill. He kind of demonstrated that want to learn. He went out to the industry and picked up a few mentors who worked with him on specific things. One of them was a developer, and he just worked on storyline and rise skills, but he also spoke to me about some instructional design stuff. And I think that's certainly what I'm looking for there. Someone who is not just looking to do that. I think earlier we saw that sort of strapline as 4 weeks to become an ID, or whatever strapline is attached to this. Yeah, it's in 4 weeks you can certainly complete whatever this course happens to be, but you've still not done anything. You've not done the job. And it's again back to the car metaphor. Until you've got in the car and tried to drive it, you can't drive.
Right.
It's, you can know all the theory you like.
See, I'm not knocking people going through their first year. That experience is extremely valuable. To share that experience and teach others as an expert in the field is a disservice to the people. Absolutely. Holy crap. They're teaching IT or teaching ID too, going back to the Scamby boot camps that we were talking about. Yeah, it's so the first talk that I ever did was actually for IDTX, and it was my bumper sticker of the word training is the marketing of knowledge. That is my philosophy. The problem with that, though, is that if you can market better than the knowledge, then the knowledge doesn't matter, which is basically what you just said, Mike. Of if I can pretend like the knowledge is good, if I can sell you on the idea that the knowledge that I'm sharing is great, it doesn't matter the quality of the knowledge. So I'm going to go to my funny little story. I actually just did an interview for a marketing manager position for a company that sold process improvement training. Which cool idea, but his approach to the position and his approach to he kind of didn't sell the product more than the possibility of the product, which is all kinds of wrong. And that's ultimately what boot camps do as well. Of I'm not going to sell you the quality of the product more than what you could get. The earning potential, which is the biggest red flag in the history of ever. I shut that down real quick, but it's stuff like that of, can I sell you on the idea of what I'm doing more than I can sell you on the idea itself, like the actual content? And unfortunately it works if you're just too confused. It sucks. I'm going to yell at the dog real quick, so you're going to see my backside for a sec.
There we go. Look, that's we'll have a spike in viewers. So yeah, I think go on that. I think there is an issue as well in the perceived value, and I say that off one particular interview sticks in my mind where someone made a real big point when I was asking about what they had done, their experience working in a corporate setting, and they showed me a whole set of digital badges they had earned from their online learning about ID.
Okay, I won an award once. It's not on my resume.
This is it. I almost wanted to go in. I'm not sure if it exists in the States, but do you have like swimming lessons at school or through school when you're young?
At school, no, but we do have swimming lessons like through like local rec centers and whatnot.
Okay. Do you get when you learn to swim like certain distances or in certain ways, do you get badges to sew onto your towel?
No, but actually I don't know because I haven't seen that. But I can say, as somebody who was in a bowling league as a kid, I did get badges to sew on my jacket.
There we go. Similar principle. So here in the UK, it's a big campaign. It was sponsored by Frosties with the tiger, that dude. So he was on all the badges, and it'd be like 5 meters forward stroke or 10 meters backstroke or, you know, whatever it might be. And you'd get given those. And I kind of thought, I've still got my swimming badges if you want to see those, but I'm not going to go and apply to go to the Olympics with them. It's, you know, and don't get me wrong, working for me is not like, I'm not saying working for me is like going to the Olympics, but
this is why I'm not swimming right now.
I wouldn't bring something like that to an interview. Like but they were convinced, based on what they had been told, that they would show me these and I would be wowed, that I would recognize these and say, wow, I now have faith in your ability. I said, if anything, the fact that that is what you chose to bring to an interview makes me question your critical thinking skills.
I just feel like, why did you earn those?
Yeah,
there we go. And then you follow up. Let's see if we can pull that off. Why did you do that? So the newsletter the newsletter I mentioned that got me noticed by the training team also won me an award. I didn't care. I couldn't do anything with that. It was a company specific award. An industry specific award is going to be nice, but if I can't counter an industry specific award with the actual knowledge of why I got it, that kind of makes the industry a bit of a joke.
Yeah, this is and this is it, and this is why I go back to portfolios are great and qualifications sometimes are great. I don't think they always say what people think they say, but that's going to depend on the interviewer ultimately. However, the one thing more than anything else I want to be able to have in an interview, if someone genuinely wants to be an instructional designer, is I want to be able to have a conversation in which you can tell me something I don't already know, or disagree with me, or challenge me, or show me that you have an approach, not just the approach you've adopted from whoever taught you, but your approach. Because everyone that I know and like to work with doesn't just do it's Addy or it's Sam or it's whatever. Like we're like magpies. I always think a good instructional designer is like a little thief. You run around and someone says something and you go yoink, and you just pick little bits of everything, and that's how you build your approach to designing effective learning content. And that's how you get these really cool parts of the industry, like Bell Vista Studios is a prime example of that, being quite different to other places, really pushing that kind of human-centered design stuff, or like what I'm doing with Evolve, where we're looking at clusters and campaigns predominantly, or whether it's going to be media enrichment or whatever it's going to be, have something that's not just I could have read that out of any. If I picked up one of 6 or 7 instructional design textbooks in the building, I could have read what you just said. If that's what I get in an interview, you're not really selling that there's a benefit in hiring you over anyone else who's read that book.
I like blowing people's minds because I don't care about Addy or Agile or Sam. I hate Agile anyway. Sam is actually the model I tend to use because it makes the most sense. But my response to my methodology is spin selling. That's actually how I look at training. And nobody knows what spin selling is, which is situation, problem, implication, and then need payoff. That's how it works. It's how I get around learning objectives. It's how I work with SMEs. That is my approach, and that tends to screw with people's heads. So I was like, what do you mean you sell? I'm like, I sell. Go. Give me something unique. Screw with my head a little bit. And I'm in. I also have I ever told you my peanut butter and jelly test?
Yes.
I love the peanut butter. I love it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And I mean, I stand by, it's a version of that. The one I've used is teach me how to tie my shoelaces. And it's a test for a good L&D professional. Don't get me wrong. Like the fact that it doesn't go perfectly does not mean I don't give them the job. It's the quality of what they do in that scenario, you know. And it's more than anything, actually, I think it gives you insight into how they go about solving a problem, as opposed to whether or not they actually solve it. It's there from Carol. I'd love a conversation around the explosion of edtech and the ethical concerns with use of data.
I'm terrified of that, because it's not the explosion of edtech I'm worried about. It's the explosion of purchasing of edtech.
Yeah,
from companies that don't give two shits about data.
Yeah, we're probably not going to get into that tonight, to be honest, because we are coming up on 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, you guys weren't aware of this beforehand, when I was nearly falling asleep at my desk before starting this episode. I said, we'll need to keep it relatively short tonight, or I'm going to end up falling asleep. And sure enough, we've gone for like a solid nearly 2 hours. But anyway, I said what this was going to be about was not a moan about the world, which it did kind of turn into. But we wanted to touch on, what can be done to make the situation better. And I think what can be done to make the situation better is to make that more organic, free approach to getting into L&D or learning about L&D more readily available. And I think that comes through mentoring, whether it's mentoring groups or just people messaging other people to say, have you got some time? And us as professionals being willing to say, yes, here's a half an hour of my time or an hour of my time. It doesn't hurt us to invest back down the chain. Like when I'm looking around going, why can I not hire the right people? Why are the right people not available to me in the market? The reason is I'm not investing back down the chain. The last thing we want to end up being is the people who get to where we want to be, but then we pull the ladder up. So we need to start thinking about how we, what do we have available to put that ladder back down with? And not everyone's going to have, 30 hours a week to single-handedly shape someone into an L&D professional. But, setting aside half an hour to go, if someone messages, oh, can you take a look at this first thing I've ever built and let me know what you think? Or I've got this problem, how would you approach it? Or could you talk to me about, I spent an hour the other day talking to a chap about what learning clusters were and why I'm adopting them so much and pushing them so much with my business, because he'd never heard of it before. It's like just that conversation is like, I never knew anything about this. It's really interesting. And it was also an opportunity for me to test myself. Do I actually know what the hell I'm talking about? Can I explain it to someone else? That's
why I engage with the internet, which is a mistake, but it's a good way to kind of sharpen my perspectives as well. That's kind of half of why I respond to YouTube comments on my channel, which but it's like, can I explain this when I'm talking to an actual wall who doesn't care? Not with the inference of turning you, but being able to take the little counter that you provided me and being able to respond to it. Same thing. And I think for L&D, for the people coming in, if you're a teacher coming into L&D, find somebody who knows to ask the right questions. Like if you're trying to shop for a coach or a mentor, find someone who asks the questions that make you rethink everything you thought you knew. Why did this work? What about this curveball? What do you do when XYZ of a thing that sounds like it could actually happen? Because chances are it does. I know how to work with SMEs and experts in the industry. It's like, oh, how do you handle them not responding or not actually believing in your vision? How do you handle them wanting training to be something specific when it goes against what you actually need to accomplish? Whoa, have fun with that, guys. Good luck.
This is exactly it.
I also shared my version of the PB&J test if anybody wants to see it, because it's daffy as heck, because suddenly I make sure you have to think about the audience and the timing without actually telling you anything. Because it's no longer, do you know PB&J? Can you teach me how to make a PB&J sandwich? It's, do you think your audience needs to learn what food is? It's a screwy question. I love it. There's no right answer. It just helps me understand the types of things that you understand. And it is very much the how do you market? How do you appreciate your audience? How do you appreciate the time you have? Because you can teach me a PB&J sandwich, but if I don't know what food is, I don't care. I'm curious if you can think in that level. Again, not that you're wrong if you don't. Maybe you took on the, I don't know how much time I have, so I'm going to try to be as efficient as I can, because you're getting picked up at some unspecified time. The way that you're going to disseminate that information. Maybe you're not taking bread, peanut butter, and jelly up to the spaceship with you. So teaching you the exact how to replicate this might not be the approach either. I'm just curious what you think. It's a fun one. I love my PB. I'm such a fan of it. But also, right questions. What do you do if they don't know what food is? What if they're not bringing that stuff up? Do you want him to demonstrate this? What if he's not bringing the things to demonstrate? What if you don't have access to the platform you're trying to show off? What if your audience are a mixture of people who only understand half the terminology that you're trying to get across? Because that happens all the time. If I'm talking to sales and data and I'm giving a data presentation, how do I get the sales guys invested without making them feel like idiots? And how do I get the data guys invested without being condescending? These are hard questions.
Absolutely.
Get a mentor.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So get a mentor. Don't be don't feel like because you're not doing a structured course that will be somehow looked down on, because unless what you're doing is a degree, master's degree, or PhD, no one knows. Like, on the whole, the average hiring manager has no idea about such and such academy or who's you what's online boot camp or whatever. They're going to go, sorry, you've done an online course, cool.
How do you solve my problems that I'm hiring for?
This is it. That's not what hiring managers are interested in. So, I mean, I would say if you're going to invest money, invest it in something that will be forever useful, like books. I know that's really boring, but like this is, e-learning and the science of instruction. This is like the owner's manual. This is like the Haynes manual to being an instructional designer at the moment. And now, I say maybe it will change in the future, but I don't know. Exactly. Mark got a spot on there. The proof is in your output. What can you bring to the table and prove that you can do? And you've got to be able to have those conversations. You've got to be able to impress on both sides. Yes, you need you need a portfolio for most jobs. And I say most because, as I've said before on this channel, the first 3 L&D jobs I got, 2 of which were e-learning focused, I had no portfolio when I applied for the jobs, had no portfolio the whole time I was there, and had no portfolio when I left. I just gave them my CV and chatted to them. Things have changed a little bit now, but
yeah, I mean, mine's mostly use cases. I think it's good. I mean, Kath, the great Kath Ellis helped me out. She took a look at my portfolio and was like, I can teach you technology. Chances are, because the way that it normally works anyways, you're going to walk into a job where they already have templates made. That's already done. You're not building from scratch anyway. I can just teach you how to work with the templates. I would rather you figure out how to maneuver the template. In a way that actually helps the learning experience, not just make things green.
Sorry. It's not very often I can say this to someone watching, but fuck off, Phil. No. Yes, Phil, you are correct. The proof is in the outcome, not the output. But I think we know what we're talking about.
So, all right, mentor programs recommend for L&D. Again, this is a space I'm not very good at. I'm curious.
So, mentoring programs are, well, ones that I could honestly, wholeheartedly recommend in terms of, I say programs, places where I know you can always get a mentor. You've got GLDC, the Global Learning and Development Community, has a mentoring program that's just very casual, pairs you up with, it's all volunteer based. No money, need exchange hands. And then you've got the ELN, whatever your disclaimer, I'm on the board of directors for the ELN for the next 2 years. It's a community networking group, basically. Membership is like £39 a year, and you I'm totally biased, but I'm biased in everything. Same reason we slam Max all the time. I'm not gonna So yeah, they have a great mentoring program there. That's actually headed by Andrew. Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten his name. He runs the Lost and Desperate blog and recently won silver as Learning Professional of the Year. His name is no, I got nothing. Even on his website, I can't spot his name. But his name's Andrew. He leads the mentoring program at the ELN. That's fantastic. But also, I would say, reach out to people you would like to. Not that you'd like to be. That's creepy. It's like you're going to find them and skin them and dress up like them. No. But find people in the industry who you think are interesting or who you think you would like to learn from, and just drop them an email or a message on LinkedIn. The absolute worst thing they can say is, I don't have time, I'm sorry.
Go bug Mr. Pack. Go bug Devlin.
No, but the other thing I would stress is do not pay someone to be your mentor. That is not a good thing. I have no problem with paid coaching. That's a thing. Mentors should be. The mentor is gaining a lot by mentoring you. That's the but they're just giving their time. It's like, no. When I agree to spend time with someone, I'm doing it because if I can help them develop, one, I'm improving the industry from which I recruit. That helps me. But two, as well, I'm affirming my own ability. I'm testing myself by helping someone else develop. You know, that is, when I say practice, you need a lot of practice in the industry. It doesn't stop. You always need more. So you are helping them, maybe in some ways not as much as they're helping you, but they're not getting nothing out of the relationship. They don't need to be paid.
Yeah.
So don't,
I've done a few of those. I've done a few of those sessions. They're fun.
This is it. Even if it's just one chat, you know, you can go. I got a heck of a lot out of some single chats that I've had with people. You know, if you can't find anyone that will agree to be a mentor, start a podcast and invite people on. Then they'll come and talk to you. That's totally what I did.
Yeah, it worked. I don't know why on episode 15, 14, 15, 15.
This is it. Yeah. It was great. I got to speak to tons of people that I would otherwise never have spoken to and learned things I would never have learned by doing that. People in our industry are remarkably willing to give their time for free. So,
especially the ones who have been doing it for a while that have a similar level of frustration, I think, that we do.
Yes.
Man, we're worried. We're worried not necessarily about the people coming in who are new, because that's unfair, but how they're being guided by people pretending like they know.
Yes. And I think that's it. And it's the fact that people coming in are being told, do this course and you're good to go. That's the real concern for me, because ultimately it's the person's choice whether or not they go to a boot camp, an online course, a degree, whatever. You have to apply your critical thinking, decide what's right for you. What's right for me will be different. That's fair enough. But the idea that that's enough, I think, is where the real problem lies, and that they're being told that that's enough. So that mentoring piece, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I would say read, get a mentor, practice, just create stuff non-stop, create problems, identify. Do you want to find business problems? Just go and look at some businesses out there that have look for, I don't know, businesses fined on Google, and find out what businesses have recently been fined for, and then think about how you as an L&D professional would try and help prevent that within the business in future, because that's what their L&D teams are doing 6 months after that fine lands. Let me tell you, I've been in a business that's regulated like that, and the one compliance is the one constant in every business that will always need training. If you can prove that you can really nail compliance training, you know, you'll be a helpful resource. It's it's a global thinking thing as well. You talk about compliance training, everyone has some level of understanding about what you should be doing. So it's but you don't have to do that. It's just an easy one to find. You don't have to you don't have to choose dud topics like COVID. I'm seeing so many COVID examples. How to wash your hands
from COVID. Well, speaking of finding good resources, instructional design tips. Last time you were like at 600 subs or some insanity. You are nearing 1,000.
We're getting close.
924. I'm pointing out just great resources. You, sir, are a great resource in the things that you do.
Well,
I am not a great resource. I don't do anything.
Yes, you do.
I show up here.
Different topic. If you need to know about cars. I always find your videos interesting. I enjoyed the live ones. Right after this. Yeah, I enjoyed the live one at the event with the people playing on the live. Was it live stream? I'm sure it was a live stream. I'm
trying to remember.
And you did a kind of downward camera at people playing, and then you were. It was really noisy at one table, so you were going to move to the other end.
Yes. Oh man, that was. I'll have to tell you the logistics nightmare that was.
But that was cool. I like that.
Yeah. Find unique things. But no, Tom is a great resource as far as finding things, and we're always about practicality here. But get him to 1,000. Let him monetize.
Oh mate, we're so far away from that. You got to get 4,000.
You are 76 away from monetizing to the point of like a penny a video.
But that's not the only criteria, is it? 4,000 watch hours.
4,000 watch hours, yeah.
That's the killer. When these videos are quite long, but no one stays for the whole thing. But most of the videos on this channel average like 6 minutes. So yeah, but that's all right. This isn't what this is about. As I said, this is about creating resources. We need more of it, not less of it. Anyway, it is getting late. I think it's time to we've glided over 2 hours. I think it's time to call it a night.
Yes,
so
we had fun.
Indeed, it's been a blast. So, March down, we are already a quarter of the way through 2022. That's mildly terrifying. We've already had IDTX for this year. That's terrifying as well. So, we will be back at the end of next month, at the end of April. And we will be, it's April. So, we'll be talking about end of year, start of year, what you're doing that year, what are you going to be buying? What are you not going to be buying? Do you know what? Let's add the topic in as well from Carol. Let's talk about the explosion of EdTech and the ethics around data use on it. So
I like it. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be a wild one.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting.
It's so good to have you, Carol. First time. Welcome to the party. Please join us next time because, I think that'd be a fun topic, especially given how many acquisitions happened. As somebody who has dealt with a lot of acquisitions and somebody who worked for big data, there's a lot to talk about regarding how that data can be used, should be used. And if you have any concerns with that, I'd be curious to hear them. I might also share some concerns that you might have that you don't. I feel like I just want to talk about how big data works.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just what I want to do. Like,
that's cool. Let's do that as well then. We'll talk big data. We'll talk EdTech. We'll talk ethics. It'll be like a short, very, very specific civics lesson.
Yeah. So Carol, since you're here and this is your topic, I'll give you a little bit of teaser from big data. Big data companies do not care as much about the specifics that you care about. They really don't. They cannot function by caring about you, Carol, doing X thing at Y time. That's not a thing in big data. So that'll be a fun conversation. How does big data actually work? What should you actually be worried about? What are you worried about that you shouldn't be? And then how is that leveraged in learning? That's what I'm about. Oh, it's going to be fun. Oh, it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Right. Well, we're done. Thank you all very, very much for joining us. We will see you again next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Roll that outro. There's only one place for the breaking news in the world of instructional design. The ID Update with Tom and Joe. All the news you never knew you never needed. Only on IDT.